Join me as I take on the challenge of identifying the 5 signs that show you may not love yourself enough to start dating. Loving ourselves is essential in attracting the right people and maintaining healthy relationships. When we love and accept ourselves, we set a high standard for how others should treat us. We become more confident, more self-assured, and more worthy of receiving love. The problem is, many of us struggle to love ourselves unconditionally. Self-love is about recognizing our worth, our strengths, and our flaws, and accepting them all. It's about being kind to ourselves, taking care of our needs, and being gentle with our emotions. When we love ourselves, we're more likely to make decisions that align with our values and goals. But what happens when we don't love ourselves? We often attract people who don't love or respect us either. We settle for less, we compromise on our values, and we feel unworthy of love. If you often find yourself seeking validation from your partner, that's a red flag. When you need someone else to tell you that you're good enough, you're attractive, or you're worth loving, it's a sign that you don't love yourself enough. You may be thinking, what's wrong with seeking validation? The problem is, when you rely on someone else to make you feel good about yourself, you're giving them control over your emotions. You're saying, I'm not enough, but if you love me, then maybe I'll be enough. When you depend on external validation to feel worthy or valued, it can lead to a cycle of constant seeking and potential disappointment. Your self-esteem becomes tied to the opinions and affirmations of others, rather than being rooted in your own sense of self-worth. This can create a fragile foundation for your emotional well-being, making you more vulnerable to the ups and downs of relationships. For instance, if your partner is having a bad day and isn't able to give you the reassurance you crave, you might start doubting yourself or feeling insecure. This can lead to feelings of anxiety, resentment, or even desperation as you look for ways to get that validation back. It's a roller coaster of emotions that leaves you feeling unsettled and dependent. Constantly seeking validation can put a strain on your relationship. It places an unfair burden on your partner to be the sole source of your self-worth and happiness. This can lead to feelings of pressure and exhaustion for them as they try to meet your emotional needs while managing their own. Over time, this dynamic can erode the health and balance of the relationship. So what can you do if you find yourself in this pattern? The first step is to acknowledge that your need for validation is a sign that you need to work on your self-love. Start by practicing self-compassion and reminding yourself that you are worthy and deserving of love just as you are. This might involve challenging negative self-talk and replacing it with positive affirmations. Another important step is to build a strong sense of self-worth independent of your relationship. Engage in activities that make you feel good about yourself and that align with your values and passions. This could be anything from pursuing a hobby, advancing your career, or volunteering for a cause you care about. These activities help you recognize your own value and capabilities, reinforcing that you are enough on your own. It's also beneficial to surround yourself with supportive friends and family who uplift and encourage you. These relationships can provide a more balanced form of validation that isn't solely dependent on one person. They can remind you of your strengths and qualities, helping you to see yourself in a more positive light. Remember, it's perfectly normal to seek some level of validation in a relationship. We all want to feel loved, appreciated, and valued by our partners. The key is to ensure that this need for validation doesn't overshadow your own sense of self-worth. Strive for a balance where you appreciate the love and affirmation you receive, but you also know that you are enough, regardless of external validation. Ultimately, when you cultivate self-love and self-worth, you bring a more confident and secure version of yourself into your relationships. You can enjoy the love and support of your partner without feeling dependent on it for your self-esteem. This creates a healthier, more balanced dynamic where both partners can thrive and grow together. Another sign that you may not love yourself enough is when you ignore your own needs. When you prioritize your partner's needs over your own, it's a sign that you don't value yourself enough. You might be thinking, but I just want to make my partner happy. That's understandable, but when you constantly put others first, you're sending a message to yourself that you're not important. When you habitually ignore your own needs to prioritize your partner's, it can lead to feelings of resentment, burnout, and a loss of identity. It's natural to want to make your partner happy, but it should never come at the expense of your own well-being. A healthy relationship involves a balance where both partners' needs are acknowledged and met. When you consistently put your partner's needs above your own, you may start to lose touch with what truly makes you happy and fulfilled. This can cause a disconnect between your true self and the role you're playing in the relationship. Over time, you might find yourself feeling exhausted, unappreciated, and emotionally drained because you've neglected your own needs for too long. Ignoring your own needs sends a powerful message to yourself that your happiness and well-being are not as important as someone else's. This can erode your self-esteem and make you feel like you're not deserving of care and consideration. It's crucial to remember that you deserve to have your needs met just as much as your partner does. So, how can you start valuing your own needs more? The first step is to practice self-awareness. Take the time to reflect on your own desires, preferences, and boundaries. What activities bring you joy? What are your personal goals and aspirations? What boundaries do you need to set to feel respected and valued? Understanding your own needs is the foundation for advocating for them in your relationship. Next, practice assertiveness in expressing your needs to your partner. This doesn't mean being demanding or selfish. It means communicating openly and honestly about what you need to feel happy and fulfilled. For example, if you need alone time to recharge, let your partner know. If you have a hobby or passion you want to pursue, make it clear that it's important to you. Remember, a healthy relationship is built on mutual respect and support. When you value your own needs, you set a positive example for your partner and encourage a more balanced dynamic. Your partner should respect and support your needs just as you do for them. It's also important to practice self-care regularly. This can involve taking time for yourself to relax, engaging in activities that bring you joy, and maintaining your physical and mental health. Self-care is not selfish. It's a necessary aspect of loving yourself. When you take care of your own needs, you're better equipped to contribute positively to your relationship. If you constantly compare yourself to others, that's another sign that you may not love yourself enough. When you measure your worth based on someone else's accomplishments, looks, or success, you're saying, "I'm not good enough, but maybe if I can be like them, I'll be enough." Comparing yourself to others is a toxic habit that will only lead to feelings of inadequacy and low self-esteem. You are unique, and your worth comes from who you are, not from who someone else is. Constantly comparing yourself to others is a habit that many of us fall into, but it can be incredibly damaging to our self-esteem and sense of self-worth. When you measure your value based on someone else's accomplishments, looks, or success, you're setting yourself up for a never-ending cycle of dissatisfaction and insecurity. Think about how often you find yourself scrolling through social media, comparing your life to the seemingly perfect lives of others. It's easy to get caught up in the highlight reels of others' lives and forget that what you see online is often just a curated version of reality. The more you compare, the more you focus on what you believe you lack, rather than appreciating what you have. When you say, "I'm not good enough, but maybe if I can be like them, I'll be enough," you're diminishing your own unique qualities and strengths. This mindset implies that your worth is conditional, dependent on how you stack up against others. But the truth is, your worth is inherent and not contingent on external comparisons. Comparing yourself to others can lead to feelings of inadequacy, jealousy, and even resentment. It can make you feel like you're constantly falling short, no matter what you achieve. This toxic habit can also distract you from your own goals and passions, as you become more focused on trying to emulate others rather than pursuing what truly makes you happy. So, how can you break free from the comparison trap? The first step is to cultivate self-awareness. Notice when you're comparing yourself to others and acknowledge the negative impact it has on your self-esteem. Once you're aware of this habit, you can start to challenge it. One effective strategy is to practice gratitude. Focus on what you have and what you've accomplished, rather than what you think you're lacking. Make a habit of writing down things you're grateful for each day, no matter how small. This can help shift your perspective from a mindset of scarcity to one of abundance. It's also beneficial to limit your exposure to situations that trigger comparison. This might mean taking breaks from social media or being mindful of the content you consume. Surround yourself with positive influences that uplift and inspire you, rather than those that make you feel inadequate. Developing a strong sense of self-worth also involves embracing your uniqueness. Recognize that your value comes from who you are, not from how you compare to others. Celebrate your individuality, your talents, and your quirks. These are the things that make you special and valuable in your own right. Please consider seeking support if you need it. Talking to a trusted friend, mentor, or therapist can provide valuable perspective and encouragement. They can help you see your worth more clearly and support you in building a healthier self-image. If you're afraid to be alone, that's another sign that you may not love yourself enough. When you're terrified of being single, it's often because you don't know how to be happy with yourself. Being alone can be uncomfortable, but it's also an opportunity to get to know yourself, to learn to love yourself, and to discover what makes you happy. If you find yourself afraid to be alone, it's a strong indicator that you may not love yourself enough. Many people dread the idea of being single because they equate it with loneliness and inadequacy. However, this fear often stems from not knowing how to be content and happy with yourself. Being alone can indeed be uncomfortable at times, but it's also a valuable opportunity for self-discovery and personal growth. When you're constantly in a relationship or seeking one to avoid being alone, you might miss out on the chance to build a deeper relationship with yourself. When you're afraid to be alone, it often means that you rely on others to fill a void or to provide a sense of worth and happiness. This dependency can lead to unhealthy relationships where your sense of self is tied to another person's presence and validation. It can also cause you to stay in relationships that aren't fulfilling or even tolerate mistreatment, because the fear of being alone seems worse than the dissatisfaction you're experiencing. So, how can you start to embrace being alone and learn to love yourself more? The first step is to reframe your perspective on solitude. Instead of seeing it as a negative state to be avoided, view it as an opportunity for growth and self-exploration. Being alone gives you the space to reflect on your life, your values, and your goals without the influence of others. Take this time to explore your interests and passions. What activities make you feel joyful and fulfilled? Whether it's picking up a new hobby, diving into a creative project, or simply spending time in nature, finding activities that you enjoy can help you build a sense of self that is independent of a relationship. Building a strong support network is also crucial. While it's important to be comfortable being alone, it doesn't mean you should isolate yourself. Cultivate meaningful relationships with friends and family who support and uplift you. These connections can provide emotional support and help you feel less isolated while you work on your relationship with yourself. It's also beneficial to confront and challenge the fears that come with being alone. Ask yourself, what am I really afraid of? Often these fears are rooted in deeper insecurities or past experiences. By addressing these underlying issues, you can begin to overcome the fear of solitude and build a stronger, more resilient sense of self. Remember, being alone is not the same as being lonely. Loneliness is a feeling of disconnection, while being alone is simply a state of being by yourself. Learning to enjoy your own company and finding fulfillment within yourself can lead to a profound sense of inner peace and happiness. When you love yourself enough to be comfortable alone, you become more selective about the relationships you enter. You're less likely to settle for less than you deserve or to tolerate unhealthy behaviors. Instead, you seek partnerships that complement your life and enhance your happiness, rather than ones that fill a void. If you're always trying to change who you are to impress someone else, that's a sign that you may not love yourself enough. When you try to fit into someone else's mold, you're saying, "I'm not good enough, but maybe if I can change, I'll be enough." Newsflash, you are enough just the way you are. You don't need to change who you are to impress someone else. Your worth comes from your existence, not from someone else's approval. If you find yourself constantly trying to change who you are to impress someone else, it's a clear sign that you may not love yourself enough. When you mold yourself to fit someone else's expectations, you're essentially saying, "I'm not good enough as I am, but maybe if I change, I'll be enough." This mindset can be incredibly damaging to your sense of self-worth and authenticity. Trying to fit into someone else's mold can lead to a loss of identity. You may start to lose sight of your own values, interests, and personality traits as you focus on becoming what you think someone else wants. This not only diminishes your self-esteem, but also prevents you from being true to yourself. Newsflash, you are enough just the way you are. You don't need to change who you are to impress someone else. Your worth comes from your existence, not from someone else's approval. When you embrace your true self, you attract people who appreciate and love you for who you genuinely are. Let's break down why changing yourself to fit someone else's expectations is problematic. Firstly, it's unsustainable. You can't maintain a facade forever, and eventually, the real you will surface. This can lead to feelings of frustration and resentment, both towards yourself for not being authentic and towards the other person for not accepting you as you are. Secondly, it sets a precedent that your value is conditional. If you're constantly changing to gain approval, you're reinforcing the belief that your worth is dependent on meeting other people's standards. This can lead to a cycle of perpetual self-doubt and insecurity, as you seek validation from external sources rather than from within. So, how can you start embracing your true self and recognizing your inherent worth? The first step is self-acceptance. Acknowledge your strengths, weaknesses, and unique qualities. Understand that no one is perfect, and it's okay to have flaws. Your imperfections make you human, and they don't diminish your value. Practice self-compassion by treating yourself with kindness and understanding. When you make a mistake or fall short of your expectations, don't beat yourself up. Instead, speak to yourself as you would to a friend who is going through a tough time. This shift in mindset can help you build a more positive and loving relationship with yourself. It's also important to set boundaries and stand up for who you are. Don't be afraid to assert your own needs, preferences, and values. If someone tries to change you or make you feel like you're not enough, it's a reflection of their own insecurities, not your worth. Surround yourself with people who accept and celebrate you for who you are. Engage in activities and pursuits that align with your true self. Whether it's a hobby, career path, or social group, find spaces where you feel comfortable and valued. These environments can reinforce your sense of self and provide positive feedback that supports your authentic identity. Remember, your worth is intrinsic. It's not something that can be given or taken away by others. When you stop trying to change for others and start embracing who you are, you'll find a deeper sense of peace and self-assurance. You'll also attract people who love and appreciate you for your true self, leading to more genuine and fulfilling relationships. If you're always trying to change who you are to impress someone else, take it as a sign that you need to work on self-love. Embrace your authenticity, practice self-compassion, and set boundaries that protect your true self. By doing so, you'll build a stronger sense of self-worth and create healthier, more meaningful connections with others. Finally, if you feel unworthy of love, that's a sign that you may not love yourself enough. When you feel like you don't deserve love, it's often because you don't love yourself enough. Feeling unworthy of love is a painful experience, but it's also an opportunity to work on yourself, to learn to love yourself, and to discover your worth. So what happens when we lack self-love in the dating realm? We often attract toxic partners, we settle for less, and we feel unworthy of love. When we don't love ourselves, we're more likely to tolerate abusive behavior, to compromise on our values, and to feel unhappy in our relationships. But here's the good news. You can cultivate self-love. You can learn to love yourself, to accept yourself, and to value yourself. Practicing self-care is essential in cultivating self-love. Take care of your physical, emotional, and mental health. Take time to relax, to recharge, and to rejuvenate. Setting boundaries is also crucial in cultivating self-love. Learn to say no to things that don't serve you, and learn to say yes to things that make you happy. Seeking therapy can also be helpful in cultivating self-love. A therapist can help you work through your insecurities, your fears, and your doubts. Cultivating self-love takes time, effort, and patience. It takes kindness, compassion, and understanding. But the result is worth it. You'll be more confident, more self-assured, and more worthy of receiving love. So, why is loving yourself important in the dating realm? Because when you love yourself, you're more likely to attract healthy partners, to maintain healthy relationships, and to feel happy in your relationships. When you love yourself, you set a high standard for how others should treat you. You're more likely to recognize red flags, to stand up for yourself, and to prioritize your own needs. So, take a moment to reflect on your own self-love journey. Ask yourself, do I love myself enough to date? Do I prioritize my own needs? Do I feel worthy of love? When you truly love yourself, you set a high standard for how others should treat you. This self-respect and self-awareness enable you to recognize red flags in relationships, stand up for yourself, and prioritize your own needs. Loving yourself means you understand your worth and refuse to settle for anything less than you deserve. Self-love acts as a protective barrier against mistreatment and unhealthy dynamics. When you have a strong sense of self-worth, you're less likely to tolerate behaviors that undermine your happiness and well-being. You become more attuned to your own needs and more assertive in expressing them. This leads to healthier, more balanced relationships where both partners feel respected and valued. Recognizing red flags becomes easier when you love yourself because you're not willing to compromise your well-being for the sake of a relationship. You're able to identify signs of disrespect, manipulation, or neglect, and take action to protect yourself. This might mean having difficult conversations, setting boundaries, or even walking away from relationships that don't serve your best interests. Standing up for yourself is another crucial aspect of self-love. When you value yourself, you're more likely to speak up when something doesn't feel right. You're able to communicate your needs and expectations clearly and confidently, ensuring that your voice is heard and respected. This not only strengthens your self-esteem, but also fosters mutual respect in your relationships. Prioritizing your own needs is essential for maintaining a healthy balance in your life. Self-love means recognizing that your needs are just as important as anyone else's. It involves taking care of your physical, emotional, and mental well-being, and not neglecting yourself in the process of caring for others. When you prioritize your own needs, you're better equipped to contribute positively to your relationships and to life in general. So take a moment to reflect on your own self-love journey. Ask yourself, do I love myself enough to date? This question helps you evaluate whether you're entering relationships from a place of self-worth and confidence rather than seeking validation or fulfillment from someone else. Consider whether you prioritize your own needs. Do you make time for self-care and personal growth? Do you set boundaries and ensure your needs are met in your relationships? Reflecting on these questions can help you identify areas where you might need to focus more on self-love and self-care. Building self-love is a continuous journey, and it's okay if you're still working on it. What's important is that you're aware of its significance and actively taking steps to nurture it. Remember, self-love is not about being perfect or having it all together. It's about accepting yourself as you are and recognizing your inherent worth. Share this video with someone who may benefit from it. And don't forget to check out our other videos on building self-esteem and maintaining healthy relationships. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more insights on building self-love and healthy relationships.